James Price is here. James, very good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good of you to give that young whippersnapper, up-and-coming star, Jeremy Kyle, a run this morning. I think he'll go far.
I think he will. World's most expensive newspaper reviewer, as I call him. But yeah, it's incredible to work with him this early in the morning, and it was great fun. But, you know, there is this sense that we all have of kind of ongoing and sort of continuing angst. You know, people are telling me every single day, we've had enough, we're fed up, we don't understand why we're working. You know, this morning you see stories of, you know, a four-star hotel, £425 a day being taken over by migrants. You see that the Daily Mail's got a story saying that these asylum seekers are now using these cards that they're given to gamble at casinos and betting shops. And people are going, what am I even bothering working for? Why am I actually bothering to put myself through the mill, pay tax in the way that I do, only to be completely and utterly frustrated to see that other people are getting everything for nothing?
Yeah, absolutely right. One of the problems when you're in government is no matter how well planned briefed you think you might be, you just have stuff coming at you all the time, and it's hard to see beyond the end of your nose. And that's doubly, triply, quadruply hard if you're a Labour Party who doesn't actually believe in anything and doesn't actually have any kind of ideology to help you out. So when you've got a scenario like this, where this is a really bad story and it's really thorny with all the kind of legal issues that have led us up to this, and we've talked about those legal issues, Mike, before a lot at this point, the ECHR and the lefty lawyers preventing us from being able to deal with any of it. So you've got Labour with it right here, struggling to actually come up with any permanent long-term solution. And the problem is that the public can now see that. They're smart enough to understand that these guys don't have any kind of long-term solution. Right. Their solution to Epping was, oh, people are protesting because they don't like it in this hotel. I know. Let's just go and move them somewhere else.
Right.
That's not going to be a long-term solution. And there are now so damn many of these people who are here. And, of course, literally hundreds coming every day, hundreds more coming every day, that pretty soon this is going to be an issue that afflicts every town, probably every village, right across the country. And unless your solution is anything other than we're going to deport all these people and get them out, then you're going to see real anger, the likes of which we haven't seen before.
Exactly right, because people will continue to demonstrate. There's now several points around Britain which are flashpoints, which you might call them that. Dis in Norfolk, we actually had a call from somebody from Dis on Monday before the people actually started revolting outside the migrant hotel. And the reason for that is that they said, look, we've had this migrant hotel in Dis for a while. It's not a big town, it's not a huge city, but it's very disruptive. But up to now, they've kept it to kind of women and children, but they've moved all the women and children out, and now it is male only, and it is people that we don't like to see wandering around in the town, and they're outside demonstrating. The police are turning up, and of course the police, under the guise of people like B.J. Harrington, as we call him, the head of the Chief Constable of Essex Police, you know, they think the problem is the demonstrators who might be far right, as opposed to the problem's actually the migrants.
Well, we know that the government's definition of far right includes people who watch Michael Portillo's railway journeys. That was in a leaked Home Office document. People that watch Morning Glory with Mike Graham are definitely on the prevent list at this. Those of us who contribute are probably being watched as we speak as well. That's what their definition of far right is. And we've seen actually what it is, as you say, it's just mums and dads and brothers and sisters and people who are just worried about these people and the stories that we're hearing, the alleged sexual assaults, the hanging around outside primary schools and all the rest of it. And again, the government will at some point, maybe with the breather of this summer, some of them going away and thinking, we need a long-term solution. I know what it will be. Let's just assume that all of these people, we're not going to be able to get rid of them anyway, because the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, Article 3, grants them a right to a family life. We'll say, well, they're going to have to stay anyway. So I'll tell you what, everyone who comes here, we'll just give them all a passport, right? And then, you know, they'll be allowed to have some social housing as well. We'll get them out of the hotels that way. Keir Starmer said a few days ago, there's loads of housing around. So maybe they'll buy these guys all houses and outcompete the rest of us who might want to own our own home one day, or outcompete us on the social housing list. And then they'll start saying to us, look, these people are just as British as you and me. And if you don't like having this goat herder who's been here for 5 minutes next door to you, you're a racist, you're going on a watch list, and maybe you're going to prison. And I can't see the British people taking that lying down, quite frankly.
No, I mean, I've never heard people so angry. I've been doing this job a long time, and we've been through all sorts of, you know, various different crises. You know, we've had the banking crisis of 2008 that I was around for, the Brexit crisis, crisis when we voted for the referendum in 2016, you know, everything in between the Olympics, you know, all the trouble that surrounded various different bombings, you know, 7/7, all of that. You know, I've never seen people this, you know, quite frankly, pissed off. And I'm saying that, and I apologise to anybody who doesn't like that language, but I think it's fair at this time of the morning because people are. You know, I've never seen it, and we're a very resilient nation. But we literally, when by the time we get to this point, you know, we're not going to put up with it any longer. And if this government tries to introduce new taxes to pay for one, all of these migrants who are now living for free in this country, and two, more money to Zelensky, who's now got his own people demonstrating against his corruption, you know, they're just going to say no.
Yeah, well, there's that Kipling poem, isn't there, about the English beginning to hate. They didn't like it, they take to it quite late. But through the day, the English begin to hate. And I think that the real horror of this, you mentioned things like 7/7, which was an evil attack done against us, despite very brave and valiant security services and MI5 and MI6 and all the rest of it. And, you know, we've got a long, sad history of having to deal with terrorism like that. I think the reason people are so damn angry about this is that we're just willingly letting this happen. It's the equivalent of letting somebody punch you in the nuts over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? You could, as Dominic Cummings has said, quite easily stop these damn boats. You see them on the screen now for people who are watching. All it takes is a box cutter and going and slashing up one of these dinghies, and it can't get here. Right? You don't even need to deploy, you know, one of the world's greatest, most powerful naval forces into the English Channel to stop it. It's the fact that Richard Hermer, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, and Starmer himself, genuinely, in their heart of heart, the only thing they actually believe is that international law and things like the ECHR and adhering to that is genuinely more important than the well-being and the safety of the British people they're supposed to represent. Once you realise that this stuff is, I'm afraid, if not by design, then certainly an intentional a desired outcome that people in power actually want, it starts to make a lot more sense. And I don't say that lightly, because I'm sure that the millions of people who voted for the Labour Party, decent, patriotic people who were a bit cheesed off with the Tories not managing to beat the blob, thought they'd try something else. And instead we get this. And this is the kind of self-suicide of a nation, I'm afraid to say.
Yes, but we also got a bit of a glimpse into the problems that this country has got and the reasons why we are where we are. And it, to me, is the press conference yesterday that was given by this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, BJ Harrington as we're calling him. This is what he said when he was asked if he was going to resign as a result of what had happened over the weekend.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called you to resign over this?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. You know, the communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation of that view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views, that is their right, and this is important that within the laws of this country, that Essex police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers from the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate.
So they won't tolerate people that will chase people away, but they will tolerate people who want to go to a demonstration despite the fact that they have no actual interest in the local area whatsoever. They just want to cause trouble. And I mean, I find it astonishing that people like this are in positions of power and leaders. This guy, by the way, is not just the Chief Constable of Essex. He is the Chief Police Officer in the land when it comes to public order.
There's an evolutionary theory that we developed language so that we could warn each other when we were up in the trees about the presence of snakes being nearby.
Yeah.
And I think we're very lucky that we have that language skill right now, because you look at this oily, slithering little man, and this is exactly the sort of person you want to watch out for. He talks about, the communities caring about this stuff. He is someone who is, as you say, allowing hard left, violent activists, frankly, if they were in America, they'd be called Antifa, coming in and starting riots and fighting, and allowing decent, honourable, ordinary people, mums and dads, as we talked about before, to be traduced and to be slandered as being far right. And I think that's absolutely disgraceful. You say you're shocked by this, Mike. Unfortunately, there are so many people like this who run institutions of the state these days, and that's exactly why all of these institutions are losing legitimacy. They just don't have, as we talked before, about a kind of long-term solution to this. What is the long-term solution to stopping the violence? You're just going to lock up all the decent British people people who say they're worried about having, third world fighting age males being forcibly moved in next door to them. Because I think there's tens of millions of people in the country, many tens of millions, who don't want them here. And they are going to stop recognizing the legitimacy of the state if that's what you're going to do to them. And then we have real societal breakdown. And I don't want that to happen. I want law and order. And I just want these people who are coming here illegally to be sent back somewhere else.
Exactly right. And the police are saying on the front page of the Telegraph today that if there is a summer of disorder in some way, shape or form, they won't be able to cope with it. And I think they're absolutely right. And they've got the bit between their teeth now, because they can't keep going to Epping and going to Diss and going to Canary Wharf. And that's only the 3 starting points at the moment, which could become a sort of ballooning episode where you've suddenly got not 3, but 30 different hotels where people are going to be demonstrating outside. Because, as you've said before, we are a very tolerant nation, but the tolerance has run out now. And everybody that you talk to, even those who maybe 2 years ago would have said, yeah, well, we don't mind taking a few migrants, we might as well take our fair share. Those kind of conversations were being had. I always said, no, we don't take our fair share. We've got too many people here already. We're a very highly densely populated country. Forget about France and Germany and how many they take. We're too small to take any more. But everybody now is exactly as you say, wanting to get rid of the people who are already here and certainly stopping any more from coming, because we simply don't have the bandwidth anymore.
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about David Hume before, who doesn't get enough of a run-out, famous Scottish Enlightenment philosopher, who talks about you can't derive an ought from an is. Yeah. What he means by that is you don't have a kind of moral obligation to do something that you physically cannot do. And we cannot take in any more of these people. These people are so alien culturally to British values. People have been taught, actually here, we don't go around groping people. Here, we don't, when you're given someone else's money to try and survive, go and gamble with it and things like that. Yeah. Right? The struggle it's going to take to try and integrate these people, given the tools we've got and how foreign and alien they are to us, is impossible. So we don't have an obligation to do this. And I think your point about the police is really, really important. People will remember, so almost exactly a year ago now, the horrors at Southport. Yeah. And in the review that happened, His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary did a review into what happened at Southport, where they admitted the police weren't prepared for it. And that was one fairly small happening. Yeah. What we learned, and what protesters will learn from this, is that if you kick up rightly and peacefully enough of a stink, as they did at Epping, they might be doing it at Diss, they'll start doing in Canary Wharf even, it doesn't have that many people living in it. What the people will learn is if you protest enough and loudly enough and fastidiously enough, then people will get moved around. So what's going to happen, as you say, it won't be 3 places. It'll become 30 places it's happening all at once. Then it'll be 300 places happening all at once, because these people have already been threaded through every little bit of our green and pleasant land. And at that point, you have police forces totally overdrawn. Does the army need to get brought in just for pure manpower concerns? And then you have a total and utter breakdown of law and order, all because English people have had, or British people, I should say, have had their tolerance snapped at this point. That is not a country we want to be in, but it's one that this Labour government has forced us into, it seems.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Listen, great to talk to you. James, thank you very much indeed. James Price, former government advisor there. We are literally staring into the abyss at this point, and the police don't have any answers.